So recently I did something that's a little bit crazy, even for me. I'm always looking for ways to stretch myself, to go beyond what I'm used to, and to do something that I find to be very challenging. So one of the things that I decided to do was to try stand-up comedy. Now, this has always been somewhat of a bucket list item for me. I've always wanted to be able to do stand-up comedy because I love public speaking. I've preached for many years. I've spoke a lot. I'm not afraid to get up in front of a crowd and speak. The only difference is when your sole purpose is to make people laugh, that's your one deliverable. If you fail at that, you basically fail at the whole thing. Whereas with public speaking, even though a lot of people are afraid to do public speaking, what they don't understand is that public speaking is actually pretty easy. And the reason why is because you have to know your topic well and you have to be able to present it well, but you don't have to be precise in your language unless you're doing some kind of scientific or engineering talk or whatever. But for most people who do public speaking, whether it's at work, or in some kind of church capacity, or in some kind of community capacity, you're speaking about a topic and nobody knows your speech or your sermon or your presentation except for you. And so if you forget where you're at, you can kind of repeat yourself and go back to where you were. And if you learn some of these skills, you can basically give a speech or a talk or a sermon that looks flawless, even if you struggled through it just a bit. Now, I talk about public speaking a lot in my Preaching Donkey brand, and I'll talk about it a lot here at Lane Sebring as well, because it's something that I love, and it's something that I think everybody should do, or everybody should at least know how to do. But when it comes to comedy, the thing about that was so fascinating is that comedy is something that you either succeed or you don't. You're either funny or you're not. You either make the audience laugh and you walk away with them having enjoyed the fact that you got up and made them laugh, or you fail and you don't and you bomb. So I decided I wanted to do it. Now, I wanted to do stand-up comedy years ago, but I never actually pulled the trigger on it until recently. My wife saw that there was a class offered in my area at a local university where I could go and do stand-up comedy. And basically what it was is we had 8 classes. They were Tuesday night classes, and 4 of them were in the classroom, and 4 of them were in actual venues on real stages in front of real people doing real stand-up comedy. So it was very much a sink or swim situation, and it was taught by a comedian local to my area who is a working professional comedian. So I went and I was so excited and nervous, and I wanted to be able to just explore, is this something that I could do? So here's what I learned. In comedy, the key is the writing. People always think it's about the delivery and the presentation, and sometimes you'll hear people kind of wax poetic about, oh, that was so funny because of the delivery. And that's true to an extent, but absent good writing, comedy falls flat because you have to have good material. What makes people laugh is actually misdirection, typically, where people are expecting one outcome and then they're misdirected to something else. It's called a punch. And so in comedy, you set up, you have a premise and you set people up to expect a certain outcome, and then you punch it with a misdirection, and that punch is what causes people to laugh. And then from there, you can keep going with it, and you can get more misdirections and more punches out of one joke or one bit, but it's all in the writing. So one of the first things I learned is that with comedy, you have to write well. So we had 4 times where we're actually in real bars doing comedy on stages. And I was only able to do 2 because for one I was traveling and one I was sick. But the first one, we get up there and it was a absolute thrill. I loved it. There wasn't a whole lot of people in the crowd, but we each got 5 minutes that night, which doesn't sound like a lot until you try to write 5 minutes of stand-up comedy and then you realize it's an eternity, right? So we get up there, we each get 5 minutes, and there's some people from our class and some people from who were there that night at that venue. And so it was a real deal. And I remember loving it. I absolutely loved the thrill of getting in front of people, holding a microphone and speaking, but not making a point, not having to say anything that matters. Now, believe me, I love saying things that matter. I love to preach. That's what I'm passionate about. I love to speak. I love to help people. I love to do this kind of thing where I'm talking to a camera and I imagine who's on the other side of that camera like I'm having a conversation with you. I love all that. But I'm just saying it was thrilling to get on a stage and do nothing but entertain the audience. And so the shtick that I took was that as a pastor, it just kind of weirds people out. People don't know what to do with me because they, maybe I'm the only pastor they know, or they assume some kind of thing about pastors. And then once they find out that I'm a pastor, it just freaks them out. They're like, oh my gosh, is this guy going to judge me, or is this guy going to start whatever, right? So that was the shtick that I took. In fact, the opening line, and I don't think this is necessarily earth-shattering or brilliant, but this is my opening line. I get up there, total audience, it's a bar, it's not a church, nobody knows who I am. I get up and I say, hi, my name is Lane Sebring, and I'm a pastor. So to come right out with that, now we're both uncomfortable. And that got a laugh. Like immediately, people, it may not be like the most earth-shattering funny thing you've ever heard, but in that setting, it was enough to break the ice. And then from there, I went on to go into more detail about just reactions that people have to me being a pastor, and I had a lot of fun with it. It was so much fun to do. The second time, which was the fourth performance, we got 10 minutes on stage. It was my second time. It was the fourth time the class had done it. 10 minutes on stage at this massive, outdoor beer garden in my area. Outside, it's middle of October. It was amazing. It was such a thrill. I went with the same shtick that I did at the beginning, only now instead of 5 minutes, it was 10 minutes. And this time I played off the energy of the crowd so much more. And I was able to kind of feel where they were and take them on a journey. And a lot of it is the exact same thing that you do when you public speak or when you preach or when you write a book. It's all about the journey and it's all about the experience. So what I learned the first time I did comedy was the precision. The precision is what's important. The second time, what I learned is that yes, precision matters, but being able to feel the moment and kind of banter with the people and relate to the moment in time that everybody's experiencing is so, so powerful. I normally avoid coming out as a pastor. I avoid the reveal, if you will, unless I'm on a stage doing comedy and then I come right out with it. But typically, I avoid it because people don't know what to do with it. People freak out when they find out that I'm a pastor. I was in an Uber the other day and my driver was like, so what do you do for a living? Which, by the way, I hate this question, because all of you have normal answers. I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. I'm a hitman. Whatever your normal occupation that you do that everybody's fine with. But as soon as I say I'm a pastor, what people hear is I'm a serial killer. And I haven't had my fix yet today. So this is convenient. I walked off the stage that night feeling like, oh my gosh, that was actually pretty good. That was half decent. My professor, who is also a comedian, really an instructor, he's not really a professor, but he's the instructor of the class. He was very complimentary and told me that I did great the first night, but then I really did great the last night. And so there you go. That's my story. I don't know if you're interested in doing stand-up comedy, but if you, in your area, if there's a class, it makes it so much easier to do because you're with other people that are right there in it with you and they're doing the same thing and you can just kind of share that experience together. I don't think I'm the funniest person in the world. I know that there are way funnier comedians than me, but I just like the challenge. And one of the things that we talk about on this channel is personal development. And one of the ways that I feel like I want to develop as a person is to stretch myself and to do things that challenge me. And getting on stage and trying to be funny on purpose in front of people where if I fail big time is a huge challenge, and it was something that I wanted to overcome, and I did. And I'm excited about getting back into it. I haven't done comedy since because we had a baby and we've been busy, but that was what I did. So, question for you. Have you ever done stand-up comedy? Did you find this video because you're interested in doing stand-up comedy? What are some things that interest you about doing comedy? And then on the other side, what are things that you want to do just because they challenge you, just because they take you out of your comfort zone? Share that with us in the comments. I would love to hear from you. My name's Lane. This is Lane Sebring's channel. I'm so happy that you watched all all of this video. Usually we talk about self-publishing, personal development, and online business. If you're interested in self-publishing, I want to give you something for free. This is the 5-step guide to writing a #1 best-selling book, which I've done. My first book was a #1 bestseller in its category on Amazon. It was super exciting. I learned a lot from it. And so if you're interested in writing, I want to put this in your hands. Just go to lanesebring.com/5steps and you can pick up your guide there. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you want more videos like this, and I will see you in the next one.
With all that, I actually do really enjoy being a pastor. I really like it. You get to be a part of people's lives. I got into this business because I like people, I love people, I want to help people, and you get to be a part of the most amazing moments in people's lives. You know, when they get married, when they have babies, when they have court-ordered, when they have community service hours that they need to complete, right? Oh man, that was going to be perfect. It was going to be perfect. It was the rule of 3. 1, 2, 3. That last one, I messed it up. But you guys are great. You guys are a really good crowd. You're so much better than a church. but